In the long and shadowed corridors of the Ottoman Empire, where power whispered through marble halls and betrayal hid behind silk curtains, one story still lingers like a curse that refused to die. It is the story of a boy who became a sultan too early, dreamed too boldly, and paid for it in the most horrifying way imaginable. His name was Osman. History would remember him as young Osman. He was only 14 years old when he ascended the throne, a child crowned as the ruler of one of the most powerful empires in the world. But unlike the rulers before him, Osman was not content with tradition. He did not trust the system that surrounded him, and most dangerously, he did not fear the men who had the power to end his life. From the very beginning, there was something unsettling about him. Not madness, but a cold awareness. He saw what others pretended not to see. The empire was rotting from within. Corruption had spread deep into the veins of the state, and at its very core stood the Janissaries, once the elite warriors of the empire, now a decaying force drunk on power and immune to discipline. Osman watched them carefully. He studied their arrogance, their defiance, their quiet control over the throne itself. And in his mind, a dangerous thought began to take shape. He would destroy them, not confront them directly, not yet, but replace them. He dreamed of building a new army, one loyal only to him, one that would wipe the old order clean. But in an empire built on whispers, secrets never stay buried. The Janissaries heard the rumors. At first, they laughed. A boy sultan dreaming of dismantling them was nothing more than a child playing with fire. But then the whispers grew louder. Plans were forming, preparations were being made. And suddenly the laughter turned into something else. Something colder, something deadly. The breaking point came during the campaign of Khotyn. Osman rode with his army, expecting loyalty, discipline, obedience. Instead, what he saw horrified him. Soldiers ignoring commands, officers acting without fear. A once glorious army, now nothing more than a fractured, disobedient mass. That was the moment he made his decision final. The Janissaries had to be erased. But decisions have consequences, and this one would echo in blood. When Osman returned to the capital, the city did not welcome him as a hero. It watched him. The streets felt different. Eyes followed him. Voices lowered when he passed. Istanbul was changing, and the storm was already gathering. Then it happened. The Janissaries rose. What began as murmurs in the barracks turned into a wave of rage flooding through the streets. Armed men marched toward the palace, not as soldiers of the empire, but as executioners of their own sultan. The air filled with shouts, with steel, with the terrifying sound of a system collapsing from within. Osman tried to escape, not as a ruler, but as a hunted boy. For the first time, fear found him. Real fear. The kind that strips away power, titles, and pride. But there was nowhere to run. The empire he tried to control had already turned against him. They found him, dragged from his hiding place, humiliated, stripped of dignity. He was no longer a sultan. He was a prisoner of the very men he once commanded. And what came next would stain the history of the empire forever. They took him to the Yedikule dungeons, a place where darkness was not just the absence of light, but a presence of its own. Thick walls that swallowed screams, cold stones that remembered every drop of blood spilled upon them. And deep inside those walls, the fate of a sultan was sealed. What happened there is still whispered about with unease. Osman begged, not as a ruler, but as a human being staring into the face of death. He pleaded for mercy, for dignity, for a chance to live. But mercy had no place in that room. The men around him were no longer soldiers. They were something else entirely. Something driven by fear, by anger, by the need to eliminate the threat he had become. They attacked him, not swiftly, not cleanly. What followed was slow, brutal, and deeply personal. He fought back at first, desperate, refusing to accept the end that was closing in on him. But he was just one boy against many. Hands tightened around his throat. The struggle grew weaker, his breath faded, and in that moment the Ottoman Empire crossed a line it could never return from. A sultan had been murdered by his own army, but even death did not bring him peace. Some accounts claim that his body was desecrated, that parts of him were taken as proof, as trophies of what had been done, that the violence did not end with his final breath. Truth and rumor blurred together, but one thing remained certain. This was no ordinary execution. It was an act of pure, unrestrained brutality. And after it was done, silence fell. Not peace, not relief, just silence. Because somewhere deep within the empire, something had broken. The throne was no longer untouchable. The illusion of absolute power had shattered, and in its place a darker truth emerged. In the Ottoman Empire, even a sultan could be hunted, betrayed, and destroyed. And the walls of Yedikule, they never forgot.